You know, it's funny. You look at a map, right, and you see this really thick, jagged line separating two nations.
Right, yeah.
And our brains are just totally conditioned to view that line as an absolute reality. We assume it's this impenetrable fortress of like barbed wire and searchlights and massive concrete checkpoints.
Oh, absolutely. The human mind loves a clear boundary.
Exactly. But then you step into the real world, into this rugged mountainous terrain where these lines are actually drawn, and well, you find out that this intimidating fortress is actually just a shallow babbling creek.
A literal stream.
Yeah. And today we are looking at a young man who literally stepped over that creek for love. And in doing so, he accidentally triggered this wildly surreal international viral incident.
Which is just, I mean, it is the ultimate collision between rigid state architecture and undeniable physical reality.
For sure.
You have these geographic boundaries attempting to dictate terms to human nature. And as we are about to see in this deep dive, human nature tends to find a way around or, right through those boundaries.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core premise we are digging into today is drawn directly from a deeply fascinating BBC News report.
A really excellent piece of journalism. Yeah.
Truly. It's by Riyaz Masroor, Shahzad Malik, and Naseer Chaudhry. And we are tracking the story of a young Pakistani man named Zeeshan.
Right.
So he's from the Haveli district. And according to the authorities that they cite in this reporting, he crosses the highly militarized line of control, the Law Sea, into Indian-administered Kashmir.
A deeply dangerous thing to do.
Extremely. And his alleged motivation for doing something so incredibly risky, he crossed just to be with a woman.
And what makes this BBC report so compelling to me is that it completely sidesteps those massive theoretical geopolitical debates that we usually hear surrounding the line of control.
Yeah, we aren't getting into the politics of it at all.
Right, exactly. We want to be very clear for you, the listener, that we are strictly looking at the facts, the official statements, and the deeply personal realities exactly as they are reported in this specific BBC source material. We aren't taking any political stance on the region, but taking the reporting at face value allows us to impartially understand the actual human mechanics of a modern border crossing.
Right, because we aren't here to solve global politics today. We are here to figure out how a guy walks across one of the most contested borders on Earth and somehow ends up trending on social media.
It's a very modern problem.
It really is. And to do that, we have to start exactly where the global public started. We have to look at the visual evidence, because this story, it didn't break via some sterile government press release, right?
Oh, not at all.
It broke via a viral video, and this video was just circulating wildly across social networks in both India and Pakistan.
It's the visual catalyst for the entire chain of events. I mean, without this specific piece of media, the narrative would have played out entirely in the shadows.
Totally. So the BBC report describes this footage, and the imagery is just, it's jarring. You have this young man, Zeeshan, and a young woman.
Right.
They are sitting together in this open area, and the text specifically notes that their faces are clearly visible.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity about who they are.
None. And behind them, lush, sweeping green mountains. If you just look at a still frame, it looks completely idyllic.
It sounds like a travel vlog or something, like a perfectly curated aesthetic.
Exactly. But here is where the reality just crashes in. The woman is sitting there, and she's holding Zeeshan's hand, but they're surrounded by off-camera individuals who are actively interrogating them.
Right, it's not a private moment at all.
Not even a little. These unseen interrogators are filming the couple while demanding they confirm their identities and exactly what regions they are from.
So you have this moment of profound intimacy, holding hands with someone you allegedly just risk your life to see captured within a framework of absolute authority and detention.
Yeah, it's so strange.
It's an interrogation that is either interrupting or bizarrely masquerading as a lover's rendezvous.
And the authorities step in pretty much immediately to confirm exactly what we are watching in this video.
Yes, they had to respond.
Right. Local police leadership, specifically Superintendent G.P. Singh of Baramulla district in Jammu and Kashmir, he officially confirmed to BBC Urdu that the Pakistani youth, Zeeshan, was indeed in the custody of the Indian Army.
And that verification covers the woman as well, right?
It does. Indian police state she belongs to Dewadi village, which is located in the Uri sector. And the report emphasizes that this village is situated extremely close to the line of control.
Which geographically explains the logistics of it. If he's making a localized on-foot crossing, she resides right on the edge of that perimeter.
Exactly. It's not like he had to hike for miles and miles inland. But I want to zero in on the framing of this video because I think it's doing something very specific.
Well, so
Well, think about it. The interrogators, presumably security forces or local authorities, they chose to hit record, but they didn't just film a standard sterile mugshot,
Right.
or like a basic proof of life video against a brick wall. They filmed them sitting in this beautiful landscape, physically holding hands while answering questions. To me, that feels deliberate.
deliberate in what way?
Like, it feels like they are actively trying to project a narrative of romance, even while detaining them, like a modern-day Romeo and Juliet, but instead of a secret balcony, it's a forced interrogation broadcasted to the whole internet.
What's fascinating here is I actually read that differently.
Wait, really? You don't think the hand-holding was intentional for the camera?
I mean, I think attributing a deliberate cinematic narrative strategy to the interrogators is giving them a bit too much credit. It's much more likely a byproduct of the chaotic, impromptu reality of modern border enforcement.
Huh. So you think it was just incidental?
I think the primary function of that camera being turned on was purely bureaucratic.
Yeah.
In a highly sensitive border zone, establishing identity immediately is paramount, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the video serves as undeniable security documentation. It's proof of capture and a real-time recording of their verbal confessions of who they are. The lush mountains and the holding hands. That's just the physical reality of where they were caught and what they were doing at that exact moment. The interrogators likely just pointed the phone at whatever was directly in front of them.
I see what you're saying. It's like it's a receipt of detention, but the messy human element just bleeds into the frame.
Precisely. But what's fascinating is the unintended consequence of that exact piece of media. By capturing them holding hands, the video accidentally creates an undeniable public record of their relationship.
Oh, yeah. You can't walk that back once it's out there.
Exactly. Once that file is uploaded and shared, it transforms Zishan in the eyes of the public.
Yeah.
He ceases to be a faceless, illegal border crosser or potential security threat.
Right. He instantly becomes a young man in love.
Yes, it completely humanizes the geopolitical transgression.
And once the algorithm takes hold, there is just no containing it. The video acts as this massive catalyst. Because it goes viral, it completely forces the hands of both governments, and more intimately, both families.
Because suddenly the whole region's watching.
Right. And this brings us to the reactions of the parents, which the BBC report details. And it is basically a masterclass in contrasting realities.
It really is. It is entirely dictated by which side of the line you happen to be standing on.
So let's start with Zishan's father over in Pakistan. According to Tariq Mahmood, who is the deputy commissioner of the Haveli district, Zishan's father went to the police and filed a formal missing persons complaint.
Because his son had just vanished.
Right. But here is the massive red flag in his official petition. The father completely omits any mention whatsoever of a cross-border romance.
Wow.
Yeah, no mention of a woman in Indian-administered Kashmir at all. His official story is that Zishan had simply gone out to herd animals 3 days prior and vanished.
And 3 days is an agonizing timeline for a parent. The deputy commissioner even notes that the father tried to search the landscape for his son himself before finally going to the authorities.
Okay, but let's be real here for a second. The herding cows story. When I read that, I immediately thought, this is a cover-up.
You think so?
I mean, he had to know, right? If you live right on the Lassie, you don't just casually say your son is herding animals when he's actually sneaking across an international boundary for a secret girlfriend.
So you think he's trying to protect him?
Yeah. It reads like a deliberate alibi to protect Zishan from what is essentially a treasonous act. He knows the legal and social ramifications are severe.
See, I think applying a mastermind cover-up theory to a rural farmer in this specific scenario is maybe a stretch.
Really? You think he actually just thought his son was looking for cows?
We have to consider the environment they live in. Imagine you are in that situation, the sheer visceral panic of being a parent in that specific topography.
Sure.
Your son goes out to do a totally mundane agricultural chore, but it's a highly militarized border zone. There are steep ravines, unpredictable rivers, and military patrols.
Right. It's not a safe place to go for a walk.
Exactly. If he is missing for 3 days, your brain doesn't immediately jump to a viral Romeo and Juliet scenario. Your brain goes to landmines, fatal falls, or accidental military encounter.
Yes.
Okay, that's a fair point. So you think he was genuinely, completely oblivious to the relationship?
I think it's highly probable. The fact that he was out scouring the hills himself speaks to immediate parental terror, not some calculating legal defense.
Yeah, you don't spend 3 days wandering the mountains if you know your kid is safely sitting in someone else's house across the border.
Right. And even if he did harbor some slight suspicion, stating it on an official police record would be disastrous. The herding alibi, whether genuine or just desperate, provides a non-political reason for his son to be near the boundary.
Because a boy chasing a wandering cow is vastly different from an active infiltration.
Exactly. Now, if you completely contrast that entire environment of panic with the narrative of the woman's father on the Indian side, it's a completely different story.
Oh, completely.
The BBC Urdu reporters actually spoke to him directly over the phone. And like Zishan's father, he had absolutely no idea about the romance. He stated he only learned about the relationship through the police.
But the way his child's detention is handled is wild.
It really is.
He tells the reporters that the Army took his daughter into custody on Sunday morning at like 7 a.m., and she was released just 4 hours later.
Which is a remarkably swift resolution for an incident involving an illegal border crossing by a foreign national and the local resident involved.
It is. It's incredibly fast. And he includes this detail that really stopped me. He notes that the Army personnel provided his daughter with tea and food during those 4 hours.
Yes, the tea. That is a brilliant sociological detail for the reporters to capture. Because what does the presence of tea signify in a military detention facility?
I mean, to me, it completely reframes the atmosphere. It signals total de-escalation.
Precisely. It tells us that the local military apparatus immediately recognized that they were dealing with a local civilian involved in a domestic entanglement, not an insurgent.
Right. You don't serve tea to a perceived threat.
Offering tea is a localized cultural standard of baseline hospitality, even in a sterile or tense environment like that. It suggests those 4 hours were likely spent just formalizing paperwork and figuring out what to do with Zishan, rather than subjecting her to an intense, hostile interrogation.
And the relief from her father is just palpable. He tells the BBC, "Our child is safe, and that is enough for us."
He doesn't care about the viral scandal at all.
Not even a little bit. He doesn't care about the geopolitics. His child walked in the front door unharmed. Meanwhile, Zishan is headed in the exact opposite direction.
Right, because his journey in the system is just beginning.
Exactly. Superintendent G.P. Singh confirms that Zishan was transitioning from initial Army custody over to the formal police investigation phase.
The legal machinery is just starting to grind for him. He is incarcerated in a foreign jurisdiction. And, this brings up a really fascinating logistical question.
What's that?
If Zishan's father is out wandering the hills looking for a lost cow herd and the police over in Pakistan haven't located him yet, how does the father actually find out his son is in an Indian jail?
Oh man, this is one of the most mind-bending details in the entire report. To understand it, we have to look at the severe technological isolation of Zishan's home.
Right.
The authorities confirm Zishan is from a village called Pankari. And the Deputy Superintendent of Police, Simab Abbasi, notes that Pankari is the last border village in the Haveli district. It is the absolute end of the road.
And a local resident, Shabir Beg, provides the critical variable here. Yeah. There is absolutely no mobile phone service beyond Pankari.
It is a complete cellular dead zone, like 0 bars. So put yourself in that village for a second.
Okay.
You are terrified because your son is missing. Meanwhile, across the globe, a video of your son holding hands with a girl in custody is racking up massive views.
Millions of views, probably.
Yeah. The algorithm is pushing his face to millions of screens. But in Pankari, total silence. Your phone is basically a brick.
This is a textbook example of an information paradox. We have a situation where the flow of critical information has completely bypassed the traditional physical state apparatus.
Right, because usually if a citizen is detained abroad, there's a whole diplomatic protocol, right?
Exactly. The detaining military tells their foreign office.
Right, who cables the other country, who sends a local officer to knock on the family's door.
Right, a linear bureaucratic chain of communication.
Yeah.
But the digital age completely obliterated that chain here. According to the statements from the local residents, Zishan's father didn't get a respectful knock on the door from a local constable.
No.
The villagers became the physical couriers of digital news.
Yeah, Shabir Beg literally states, "We saw the video and then told Zishan's parents, 'Your son has gone to the other Kashmir and his video is going viral.'"
Think about the mechanism of how that happens. How does a viral algorithm penetrate a dead zone?
Right. How does it get there if there's no service?
It operates almost like water pressure. Imagine building a massive physical dam to block a river that's the militarized border. But social media is like a digital cloud. It just rains the information directly onto the landscape behind the dam.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. So The algorithm is tracking localized content. A video shot near the Lawzi starts spiking in engagement.
Right.
And the social media platforms push that video to the cell towers closest to the geographic origin of the IP addresses involved.
Exactly. The algorithm knows the content is highly relevant to that specific geographic radius. So residents of Pankati who periodically have to travel to the nearest market town where there actually is a cell signal, maybe to buy supplies or something.
Oh, I see.
Right, they connect to the network. And the moment their phones sync with the tower, the algorithm floods their feeds with the most relevant local spike, which is Zishan's video.
They download the news of an international incident, put their phones in their pockets, and literally walk the data up the mountain back into the dead zone to tell the parents.
Yes.
It's wild. I mean, it's like living in the 19th century geographically, but having your life upended by 21st century algorithms. You have an algorithm utilizing human beings on foot to deliver its final payload.
And for an isolated community, it's a terrifying vulnerability. They are geographically cut off from the benefits of the modern world, yet they're utterly exposed to his digital gaze.
Yeah, they have no defense against it.
The state lost control of the narrative, and the family lost the dignity of privacy. The physical border stopped Zishan, but it was completely useless against the data packets carrying his image.
Okay, so we've established the digital mechanics of how this played out, but that forces us to look at the physical mechanics.
Wait, the crossing itself.
Exactly.
Right.
How did Zishan actually get across? Because if the border is this imposing, highly monitored fortress that stops human beings, how does a guy from a village with zero cell service pull off an infiltration?
And the BBC report provides a geographical reality check here that completely shatters our preconceived notions of the line.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The reporters speak to another Haveli resident, Sardar Muzaffar, and he describes the actual physical topography where Zishan allegedly crossed.
It's not what you'd expect.
Not at all. It's not a concrete wall. It's not a minefield. Muzaffar states the crossing point is simply a, quote, small seasonal stream.
A stream. Not exactly the Iron Curtain.
No, not at all. And Muzaffar goes on to say that crossing it is not very difficult. In fact, he explicitly notes that people's cattle routinely cross this exact stream to the other side.
Which retroactively adds a massive layer of plausibility to the father's herding story, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
If cattle cross it daily, a missing cow herd is a completely standard, mundane local occurrence.
You're totally right. But the cognitive dissonance here is just staggering. When we hear line of control, we picture a monument to military engineering.
Right.
We picture searchlights cutting through the fog and razor wire and guards, but nature is completely indifferent to geopolitics.
Nature doesn't care about treaties.
Exactly. To a cow or a young guy in love, that terrifying international boundary is literally just some water flowing over rocks.
This highlights the illusion of the impenetrable border. Borders are political concepts, They're mapped out in capital cities hundreds of miles away from the reality on the ground. But the Earth itself, the topography, is constantly fighting against those political mandates. A stream is a natural resource. It's a point of convergence, not division. It naturally invites crossing.
So put yourself in that village. You look across a stream so narrow you could probably skip a rock over it.
Right.
You watch your cows wade through it for a drink every single afternoon. It requires zero physical exertion to step into the water. But the second your boot gets wet, you transform from a local resident into an international criminal.
Imagine the psychological discipline that requires. It is an exhausting mental task to live your entire life pretending that a babbling creek is a wall of fire.
That's a great way to put it.
The physical reality of the geography is constantly tempting you to ignore the abstract reality of the state.
And for Zishan, the temptation, or rather the pull of the person standing on the other side of that creek overrode that mental discipline. He saw water and he just walked through it.
He did.
But the more you read this report, the more you realize this isn't just about one guy acting impulsively.
No, it is a symptom of a much wider, deeply entrenched structural issue.
Exactly. The reporting introduces us to Shazia Kayani. She is a lawyer residing in Haveli Kahuta, and she provides the sociological context that elevates this from a localized scandal into a generational tragedy.
Her insights are crucial here.
They really are. Kayani explains the fundamental reality of the people living along this line. She says plainly, people have blood relations on both sides of the border.
The border didn't divide strangers. It bisected families, aunts, cousins, grandparents, suddenly legally severed by a seasonal stream.
And Kayani pinpoints the exact emotional mechanism driving these crossings. She notes that people simply grow weary of just looking at each other from a distance.
Wow.
Yeah. She explicitly links this emotional weariness to the risky incidents we are seeing.
Weary of looking at each other from a distance. That is just a devastating summation of the border experience. The proximity is the punishment, really.
Yeah.
It would almost be easier if a massive mountain range separated them completely out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to see the smoke from your cousin's chimney across the creek, to see them age, but be legally barred from attending a wedding or a funeral, that is an intense, slow-burning psychological trauma.
But the really damning part of Kayani's testimony is the historical context, because it wasn't always just staring across the water.
Right.
The report highlights that there used to be a legal pathway. She mentions a bus service that operated, providing an opportunity for these divided families to officially selfly meet.
A sanctioned pressure valve for all that pent-up human longing.
Exactly. But she notes that the service has ended. The state shut the valve. But if I can just ask you, when you look at the mechanics of human behavior, if you shut down the only safe legal route for families to see each other, you don't extinguish the desire to connect, right?
Not at all.
You just mathematically guarantee that they will seek out unsafe, illegal routes. You push the behavior into the shadows.
This raises an important question about how we govern human movement. When authorities rely entirely on absolute prohibition, they often ignore the underlying demand.
Right.
As Kayani points out, these relationships continue generation after generation. Political treaties can be drafted in an afternoon, and a bus service can be canceled with a single signature.
Yeah.
But shared bloodlines, generational love, and deeply rooted community ties operate on a timescale that completely ignores political edicts. You simply cannot legislate human affection out of existence.
You can't pass a law making someone stop missing their family, or in this case, someone they fell in love with.
Precisely. And Kayani concludes with a statement of pure inevitability. She says, in such a scenario, people will naturally make such attempts to meet one another.
It's just human nature.
Exactly. It's not an anomaly. Human nature will always seek a path of least resistance, much like the water in that stream. The cancellation of the bus service didn't stop the crossings. It just ensured that the crossings would become desperate acts of infiltration rather than routine travel.
And if you need hard evidence that Kayani's theory of inevitability is correct, the BBC report provides a stunning precedent right at the very end.
Oh, this part is incredible.
It is. This isn't just a theory, it's a verified cycle.
It establishes a definitive structural pattern.
Right, so the report reveals that this exact situation occurred just weeks prior, only in reverse. On November 24, 2024, a woman from Indian-administered Kashmir crossed the line of control and entered the Haveli district in Pakistan.
The exact mirror image of Zishan's trajectory.
Identical. She went straight to the house of a Pakistani youth, and the police explicitly stated her intent. She crossed with the clear intention of marrying him.
Wow.
She risked military detention, social ostracization, and massive legal jeopardy purely for marriage.
And we really have to look at the timeline here. November 24th. And then shortly after, Zishan makes his attempt.
Right. That proximity in time makes me seriously wonder about a contagion effect. We already discussed how digitally connected these isolated youths are to the viral algorithm, right? So does hearing about the November crossing give someone like Zishan the courage to try it? Even if she was caught, the story locally becomes she actually made it across the stream.
That's a really sharp observation.
Does the normalization of the deviance inspire the next attempt?
It is highly probable. In a highly restrictive environment, any successful breach of the rules, regardless of the ultimate consequences, takes on a legendary status.
Oh, definitely.
It shatters the myth of the impenetrable wall. If someone else proves that the physical act of walking across the creek is survivable, the mental barrier collapses.
Yeah.
The symmetry here is what is so vital to understand. Men and women moving in both directions across one of the most heavily sortified lines on the planet, driven purely by romance and family ties.
It's powerful.
It really forces us to recognize that these aren't bizarre, isolated security failures. They are the inevitable byproduct of a system that ignores human reality.
It's incredible how much depth exists in just one piece of reporting. I mean, we started by analyzing a surreal, viral video of a couple holding hands during an interrogation, an image that accidentally humanized a massive geopolitical conflict.
It dissected the wildly different realities of their fathers, one gripped by the sheer panic of a missing son in a dangerous landscape, clinging to a plausible alibi about herding cattle.
Yeah.
And the other experiencing the overwhelming relief of a daughter returned safe, where a cup of military tea signaled a profound de-escalation.
And we looked at the mechanical irony of the information paradox, right? Where a digital algorithm uses physical villagers to ferry viral news into a cellular dead zone, bypassing the entire state apparatus.
Right.
We shattered the illusion of the impenetrable border, recognizing the massive cognitive dissonance between a political map and the physical reality of a shallow, seasonal stream.
And finally, we listened to the local legal perspective, understanding that when you strip away safe, legal pathways like the canceled bus service, you don't sever generational ties.
No.
You simply force desperate people into dangerous waters. A pattern proven beyond doubt by the repeated crossings in both directions.
So true.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the profound takeaway from the BBC's reporting is that the authorities are merely managing symptoms.
Right, they aren't fixing the problem.
Exactly. The local police will process Zishan, the paperwork will be filed, the jurisdictions will be debated. But the root cause is entirely untouched.
Right.
Because the root cause isn't a lack of border enforcement. The root cause is human affection spanning a physical divide. You cannot secure a perimeter against human longing.
You just can't.
The interrogations and detentions might serve as a temporary deterrent, but the underlying sociological pressure remains constant. As long as the official pathways remain closed, there is an absolute guarantee that another young man or woman will eventually stand at the edge of that stream and decide the risk is worth taking.
And that reality leaves us with a lingering thought we want you to mull over as we wrap up today. We focused heavily on the impact of canceling that bus service, shutting down the legal sanctioned valve for human connection. Think about that mechanism in a broader context. Whether you are looking at global politics or the rigid systems we construct in our own communities, workplaces, or institutions, when we design systems that demand absolute compliance but completely ignore fundamental underlying human needs, what are we actually achieving?
Are those rigid systems truly generating order and stability?
Right. Are we creating genuine security? Or by systematically shutting down every safe, sanctioned route for people to meet their basic needs for connection, are we just mathematically guaranteeing that they will eventually find much riskier, unpredictable, and disruptive ways to break the rules?
That's a great point.
Because restriction rarely creates pure compliance. More often than not, it just breeds desperate innovation.
And the next time you look at a map and see a solid, unyielding line, perhaps you will remember that somewhere along that perimeter, it's just water flowing over rocks, waiting for someone to step across.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the rigid lines you see in the world, and always look for the human realities hiding behind the viral videos in your feed. Until next time.